book is an interrogation really of the left's position. I'll be very honest, I come from a family where, let me just put it this way, they had a sort of, they had a monopoly on leftist thought. My aunt is Romila Thapar and my uncle is Karan Thapar, and both of them have been very public figures.
I had no idea. Razia किन गुंडों में फंस गई.
So they had a monopoly over a conversation which went on quite long. And I found that a lot of what they were saying and speaking about went unchallenged, but was full of sort of intellectual loopholes that needed to be interrogated. And the opportunity has presented itself because Mr. Modi, of course, came to power in 2014, and then you saw the backlash. Anything that he ever has done has been resisted, and most often on ideological lines. Even though I find that his 9 years in power, as Dr. Ranganathan himself perhaps has put forth, has steered really clear of some of the foundational ideological issues that should have actually defined Bharat. He's only addressed a few of those issues, but I suppose you can give the man some time. Fundamentally, what were they saying? The 2019 election has seen the birth of an angry state, that after 2019, a large number of changes have been made which have changed the citizens' relationship with what was a grand secular constitution that we gifted to ourselves under Mr. Nehru. And that we were now headed towards this angry, parochial Hindu Rashtra. And some have, of course, gone to the extent of describing it as the coming of a Hindu Pakistan. And that is the very eloquent voice on the left, Mr. Shashi Tharoor. He's come up with this phrase, and he often sort of talks about it. And therefore, you've had a whole stream of people sort of pushing this very, I suppose one can only say, an extremely dark view of where we are headed. Because obviously, if you become a Hindu Rajya and become a Hindu Pakistan, then you know what happens to minorities. And therefore, it is an exclusivist concept. And they said 2024 is the last chance to stop Modi from creating the architecture of a Hindu Rajya. And today, in a couple of days, when we are going to have the Pran Pratishtha at the Ayodhya Ram Temple, this conversation is speaking again, that look, this is the physical manifestation of a Hindu Rajya where the Prime Minister is going to be the plenipotentiary, so to speak, and he is going to be the person who is going to take India away from its secular roots and merge religion with politics, and that also the Hindu religion with politics in a way that never has happened before. Of course, we've never really been a secular country. Unfortunately, this is a lie, and I have brought it out in this book where I talk about it, come up with a phrase, it's called discriminatory secularism. We were only secularism in name, and Dr. Ranganathan will of course give us a point-by-point elaboration of how we have actually militated against Hindus in the name of being secular, as if the onus only lies on Hindus to maintain the secular architecture of this state, which is such a folly. So you have seen many, many, many interventions on the Hindu side and allowances made for our minorities in the name of upholding secularism. But what we actually gifted ourselves was a minorityism. And I am not in any way against minorities having an association with the Indian state that protects their cultural identity. Please, by all means have it. But the state must be above, if it calls itself a secular state, must be above religion for everyone. You can't have the state intervening and codifying Hindu personal law, etc., stopping Hindus from a fundamental right which is going up and challenging a particular order which they don't like. I mean, if all of you were denied the right, for example, to approach court, how would you like it? I'm asking you. Raise your hand. Would you like it? Yes, no. Why? Because it's an assault on your right to seek some sort of redressal. Can you imagine a society where no one is allowed to seek redressal? And that is a policy. So we are told that, oh, the Modi government has injected so much communalism via policies. Name me one policy that is communal. But I can name you at least 20 that have been militantly communal policies brought in by other governments which were headed by either the Congress or their allies in power. So my thesis really is about breaking down this notion that we are becoming a narrow Hindu Pakistan.
Let's be very honest. Modi's government is not anti-Hindu, like the Congress blatantly is, has been. I've given examples in there. But it's not pro-Hindu as well. Just the other day, in fact, in Rahul Studios, there's some startling revelations that came out through Vishnu Jain, a good friend who's he and his father are fighting this incredible battle for our civilization. And he said that the district magistrate who opened the first time the gates of the Ramlalla, he was not promoted because Mulayam Singh said he is a very honest judge, but because he did what he did, opened the gates, I'm not going to promote him. This has what has been happening. Mulayam Singh said, in order to save Muslims and their faith and the Babri Masjid, I ordered the firing at Ram Sevaks. And he said, even if not just 16, 30 had been killed, I would have stuck to my decision. Well, not just 30, but according to Hari Jainji, 343 Ram Sevaks, Star Sevaks were killed. And Vishnu filed an FIR against Mulayam Singh Yadav that wasn't accepted. So many things that have happened. And Vishnu said the system did nothing. Well, that's not true because the system under Mr. Modi gave him Padma Vibhushan. So yes, the government works in mysterious ways. It's not just about, and I think here, if I can make one small distinction, whatever I have discussed in this book is almost, the title itself is like a play, a parodic title on what the left feels we are living in right now, which is a Hindu Rashtra. You know, before 2014, everything was absolutely perfect, and suddenly, after that, we are living in a fascist Hindu Rashtra, Hindutvavadi, everything. And the idea was to tell that, look, these are the things, blatantly state-sanctioned anti-Hindu things that are happening in Hindu Rashtra. You know, how is this, how are the two things compatible? And the thing about Modi being not doing these things for Hindus, or I sincerely don't think these things as done for the Hindu cause. They are not Hindu things. If you remove discrimination that is state sanctioned happening against a particular community, then it is, period, a discrimination. If 7 lakh Kashmiri Hindu refugees have not been returned to their land for 34 years, then it's not a Hindu thing. It's something to be, for us to be ashamed of. So where is this something working if tomorrow the Prime Minister says, well, you know, we will make settlements there and we will make sure that every Kashmiri Hindu who's been displaced, exiled, and Rahul belongs to one from that community, is returned to their land. It's not for the cause of Hindus. It's for the cause of, the just cause of Indians. So none of these things are, and yesterday was the 34th anniversary of the Kashmiri Hindu genocide that happened on 19 January 1990, where they were raped, pillaged, looted, ethnically cleansed, driven out. We can settle 40 to 50,000 Rohingya Muslims in Kashmir and rest of India, and we have not been able to settle 7 lakh of our own people. Be that as it may, the fact also remains that it's not just Modi that is, quote unquote, not working for Indian interests. I'm no longer going to call it Hindu interests, Avas. It's the Supreme Court as well. Because in October of 2020, the Supreme, and again repeated it, it refused to reopen the cases of Kashmiri Hindu genocide of 1990, saying too much time had elapsed. What can be more cruel than that? I've just, thanks to J. Sai Deepak, won a wonderful case against criminal what is it called?
Contempt.
Of court. So I'm feeling a little bit freer now. I can say this. What the Supreme Court did was absolutely criminal, horrific. Especially 6 months after it said it's not going to reopen the cases against Kashmiri Hindus, that crimes against, it said it set up an SIT to look into and reopen the cases of atrocities against the Sikhs in the 1984 genocide that happened 7 years before 1990. So that it can reopen. But 1990, it says too much time had elapsed. This is what is happening in Hindu Rashtra. So it's not something to do with Hindus at all. It's basic human decency and rights that Hindus are not being provided. Finally, just before I end at least this chapter of it, you may think that it is the Hindus that have been stomped upon with this draconian evil Places of Worship Act. But it's not just the Hindus. It's a human being, because what else is democracy? The first preamble of democracy should be that a man should be able to approach the courts to seek justice. It doesn't matter if the judge adjudicates against him or for him, but at least he should be allowed to seek to approach the courts. And Hindus have been barred from doing that. Other than Ram Janam Bhoomi, any other place that has been demolished, that is sacrosanct and sacred to the Hindus, Kashi, Mathura and so many others, the Hindus can't even approach the court to say, my lord, can you please at least give us back the demolished temple, the most sacred temple, or can you please at least adjudicate whether this rightfully belongs now to us or not? Can you please adjudicate for us or against us? Hindus can't even do that. How is this a democracy? I'm sorry, it's not. As I say, we have been a banana republic ever since we became a republic.
And as Dr. Ranganathan was saying, Hindus don't get justice in your own country. I tweeted today, and I'm sure a lot of you, and it's very worthy, you must all stand up for human rights and the right to return. You know, there's this word, right to return. Where have you heard it? Where have you heard it? With respect to the Palestinians, right? They have a right to return. How many of you have held up one of these placards to say, Hindus have a right to return to Kashmir? How many? I'm told that, you see, most campuses are full of leftists. And they were all out when the Israel conflict was happening after the terror attack on Israel, as if they didn't have a right to self-defense. And I was told that a large number of people here were holding up placards, and I saw them from my studio, of course, saying, Palestinians have a right to return, right to return, right to... Of course, everyone has a legitimate right to return. But the point is, here in our country, where we have democracy, forget about a Hindu Rajya, a monarch, a Hindu king. We have democracy today, right? We don't have a right to return for our own Hindus, and you're talking about a Hindu Rashtra and they're talking about a Hindu Pakistan. Can you believe it, viewers?